Special teams truly matters. The Dolphins added a punter. By God Almighty, the Dolphins added a new punter. Let's talk about it on today's show. Let's get after it. You're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest of all.
Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one.
Good evening, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast on this Sunday evening, March the 16th. I am your host, Mike Oliva. As I said in the cold open, the Miami Dolphins added a new punter today. We're going to talk about that, Ryan Stonehouse. And also, we're going to talk about here what Miami might do in round one of the draft. We are about, 5 weeks away from the NFL draft. And now with the first wave of free agency pretty much over and Miami making a bunch of signings, we see where they addressed some positions, which positions they ignored, and how that might play in to the 13th overall pick in round one. So we're going to talk about all that on today's show. Before I get to any of that, a shout out to the sponsor of today's show, Caneswear. Everyone go to caneswear.com, the website caneswear.com, for the best Miami Dolphins apparel on the internet. If you need a Miami Dolphins polo, hoodie, if you need a t-shirt, a hat, a jacket, anything with the Miami Dolphins logo on it, caneswear.com is the place to go for the best Miami Dolphins apparel, the most affordable Miami Dolphins apparel as well. Caneswear.com also has stuff. They have you covered for the Florida Panthers, the Miami Heat, the Miami Marlins, of course, the Miami Hurricanes, and all the college teams in South Florida. But truly, if you're a Miami Dolphins fan listening to this, check out the website caneswear.com for all the best Miami Dolphins gear. They ship internationally as well. So if you're listening abroad, they will ship it to you. It doesn't matter where you live. And that's the website, caneswear.com. Also, Dolphins Talk Extra. We got two contests going on at the same time. Patreon.com/Dolphins Talk, $3 a month. What you're going to get for $3 a month is bonus podcasts, some about the Dolphins, some not about the Miami Dolphins. We have podcasts about music, pro wrestling, television, Major League Baseball, the NBA, as well as some extra podcasts about the Dolphins that we don't give away for free. And you also get access to a private message board. That's right, a private message board where you can interact only with Dolphins Talk Extra subscribers, a little bit more laid back and chill than Twitter and Facebook and Blue Sky and all the other places. And you have access to interactive podcasts where you can join Josh, Aaron, and myself on a happy hour podcast and talk to us directly on a show and ask us anything, whether it's about the Dolphins or not. And we do watch along shows where, or I should say rewatch shows where we watch old Miami Dolphins games and break them down and talk about why that game was important, what that game meant, who, stood out in that game. Just a few weeks ago, we did a rewatch of the 2002 Miami versus Chicago Bears on Monday Night Football. Ricky Williams ran for over 200 yards. So we got those shows. But here's the best part. If you sign up for Dolphins Talk Extra right now, you are automatically entered to win this very rare Tyreek Hill mini bobblehead doll. They only made 144. It is extremely rare. All you got to do is be a Dolphins Talk Extra subscriber member. If you already are, you're already in the contest. If you sign up now, you have a chance to win $3 a month. You get you a chance to win this. Never been opened, mint in box. We made 144. You can, if you don't want it, sell it, and you'll make a ton of money. That's how rare it is. Also, we have our March Madness contest. The brackets just dropped about an hour or two ago as I am recording this. And if you sign up for Dolphins Talk Extra, and you can enter our March Madness contest, fill out a bracket, the winner gets this very rare Tua Tagovailoa full-size bobblehead doll. Again, they only made like 170 of these, I believe. Never been opened, mint in box, very rare. Tua Tagovailoa bobblehead. Dolphins Talk Extra is the place. Patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. All right, let's get to the news. It came out Sunday morning from Justin at the Draft Network. he broke the story that the Miami Dolphins were signing punter Ryan Stonehouse, formerly of the Tennessee Titans. ESPN then confirmed it's a 1-year deal, but we don't have the money amount of how much he signed for. Now, this is going to trigger another move. Miami will cut Jake Bailey here in the coming days, I would suspect. You don't need 2 punters. And by cutting Jake Bailey, that is going to open up $1.975 million in cap space, and it only has $550,000 of dead money, which $550,000 in the NFL is like literally a nickel to you and me. So the fact that they are going to free up $1.975 million makes me think that Ryan Stonehouse is going to cost in or around that. Even if it's a little bit more, it's fine because this is a true upgrade at punter. And of course, new Miami Dolphins special teams coordinator Craig Aukerman was with the Tennessee Titans the first 2 years Ryan Stonehouse was in the league. And those 2 years, Ryan Stonehouse led the NFL in yards per punt. So we got a little reunion here between our new special teams coordinator and Ryan Stonehouse. Stonehouse went undrafted in 2022, and he spent his entire NFL career with the Titans. In 2022, he was second team All-Pro as a rookie, and he led the NFL in punting yards, which I don't know if that's anything to brag about. It just means that the Titans punted a lot, and he was kicking bombs, and he had the most punting yards. But this is the one that really will, if you're into special teams, this one kind of piques your interest. In 2022 and 2023, Stonehouse led the league with 53.1 yards per punt. Number 1 in the whole NFL out of all punters, 53.1 yards per punt. Now, last year with the Titans, he averaged 50.6 yards, so a little bit below his average. But mind you, he was coming off an injury, and he still was kicking over 50 yards per punt. On the other hand, Jake Bailey has never in his entire NFL career averaged 50 yards per punt in a season. Never. Stonehouse has done it all 3 seasons, led the NFL 2 of them. Now, Stonehouse did have 2 punts blocked this past season, which is a little bit of a concern. And he had 1 punt blocked in 2023. Not the end of the world. Now, the one in 2023 led to an injury. He had an ACL and MCL injury. It was a brutal play. It's out there on social media. It's out there on YouTube. Or if you just follow the NFL closely, you probably saw at the time. It's one of those plays that you just sort of don't forget when you saw it. He had an ACL and MCL injury and a broken bone in his non-kicking leg. But he pretty much made it a full recovery because last year in 2024, his numbers were not – they didn't take a significant fall off, so he's pretty much healthy. It's fine. It wasn't that bad. This past year, Ryan Stonehouse hit a career low, though, of 22 punts down inside the 20-yard line. The previous 2 seasons, he had 30 and 28. Again, I wouldn't worry about that too much. It's not like it was drastically down. We're only down by a few. Jake Bailey, on the other hand, the past 2 seasons only had 20 and 22 punts down inside the 20. So even at 22 for Stonehouse, it's still no worse in that one area than Jake Bailey. As I said, 2024 was the quote-unquote worst, again, worst, not bad, season for Ryan Stonehouse, but the numbers aren't bad, aside from 2 blocked punts, which I think happened in weeks 1 and 2. After that, it was nothing. In 2022, he also had 3 kickoffs. 2 of them went for touchback, so in a pinch, if he has to do that, he is good there. But overall, this is a significant upgrade for the Dolphins on special teams. Jake Bailey did not have a big leg, and he was a bottom half of the league punter. You can make a case out of all the starting punters in the league, he was probably bottom 10 or bottom 5. This guy, Ryan Stonehouse, now that he is 1 year plus removed from this injury, is a top half of the league punter. He is as good as they get. He's averaging over 50 yards per punt. He has a huge leg. He's going to kick some bombs in Miami. And as long as he improves a little bit on how many punts he can land inside the 20, he'll be fine. And again, even if he doesn't, 22 is good enough, honestly. If you can get it back up to like 25 to 28 to 30, that's great. Awesome. But even if it's around 22 per season, that is good enough for a punter in this NFL. And what this is a sign of is that the Miami Dolphins, I will give them credit, they're emphasizing special teams. Something 4 years, especially under Mike McDaniel, they have ignored. They finally got rid of Danny Crossman, their special teams coordinator. Craig Aukerman, not the most inspiring hiring in the world, but at least it's something different. I'll give him a chance. At least it's not status quo. I will give him a chance. So they upgrade there. Jason Sanders, no need to upgrade there. He's fine, so they're cool there. And now they've upgraded punter because Jake Bailey really wasn't that good. So special teams matter. Miami's special teams have been a disaster, and now it literally can't get worse. It's only arrow pointing up. Hopefully, this is an improvement, and it's an improvement to the entire special teams unit, and which I give them credit for making the changes, because it's something we can't say about the offensive line and kind of what they did there last week, the first week of free agency, where I have a lot of questions on a lot of the signings they did. Here, I give them an A+ all around, because this was needed. And I know some people say it's only punter, who cares? Special teams. Yeah, it's one of those things where you say who cares until it's a big game in November or December and your punter shanks one and you give your opponent starting field position at the 40, when really if you had a halfway decent punter, they'd be starting at the 18. And that's the main, and those are the hidden yards on sometimes why you win or lose a game. So Ryan Stonehouse, welcome to Miami, and we'll see when Miami officially cuts Jake Bailey. It makes, when you can open up $2 million and carry only $550 dead money, it literally makes no sense to keep him. I said prior to free agency, the two guys Miami will cut are Jake Bailey and Alec Ingold. They didn't do it prior to free agency, but they will in time. And, you know, Jake Bailey now will get let go. Alec Ingold will, I guess they could hold on to him, but I doubt it just because of what it brings financially for the salary cap, but we will see about that. Okay, before I go on to the next segment on the show, a shout out to everyone listening at finheaven.com. Everyone go to finheaven.com, largest Miami Dolphins message board on the internet. Also a shout out to our friends at the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page, run by the great and talented Carlos Hernandez. If you're on Facebook, please be sure you are part of the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page. And wherever you're listening to this podcast, if it's YouTube, smash that like button right now, smash it and subscribe to the channel. But also if it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, Podchaser, iHeartRadio, Audible, or one of the other hundreds of platforms we're on, subscribe to the channel. We had shows each and every day last week. We'll probably have shows each and every day this week. I have a surprise guest either Monday night or Tuesday. Josh Moser is back on Tuesday. And later in the week, I'm working on a few things as well. You're not going to want to miss. Josh and Aaron should also make their return this week as well. So make sure you're subscribed to wherever you're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast. All right, with the wave one of free agency over, we can now get a better idea where the Miami Dolphins might go in round one of this NFL draft, where they hold the 13th overall pick. We see the areas Miami addressed here in this first wave of free agency. Again, they went low-level, mid-level value signings, and they felt they could fill some holes there. They felt they filled one offensive line spot there, maybe two, all depending on how they feel about Larry Borum. And they brought back, of course, Liam, so they've honestly signed 3 offensive linemen there. You can read into that what you want. They brought in a bunch of safeties, re-signed one, and they signed some new guys like Ashton Davis, Afedu Malafanu, and they brought back Elijah Campbell. So they obviously spent some money there. And also at linebacker with KJ Britt and stuff there. So, and then, of course, the number 3 wide receiver, and then Zach Wilson. So that's where they, the first wave of free agencies, where they spent their money and some of the holes they filled. Now, they didn't fill all the holes because that would have been impossible. They had so many. And I think it's clear what they want to address in this draft in the early rounds. And by the early rounds, I'm talking there are 3 picks in the first 100. Round 113, round 2, pick 48, and round 3, 89 or 98. I always get that backwards. Either way, they got 3 picks in the top 100. I think it's 98. And in no special order, those needs are defensive line, cornerback, and more offensive line, I think. And at pick 13, assuming they don't, move up or down, here are the 4 names I would keep an eye on right now for the Miami Dolphins. If I had to put, say I had $100, I'd put $25 on all 4 of these names, thinking one of them will be the pick for the Dolphins. It will be either cornerback Will Johnson, defensive end Shamar Stewart, defensive tackle Walter Nolan, or defensive tackle Kenneth Grant. I think one of those 4 will be the pick at number 13 for the Dolphins. If I had to make that prediction today, of course, this is fluid, and with more information or more free agency signings in the coming days, I might change this. But again, on March 16th, this is how I see it playing out. I don't see an offensive lineman in round 1. for the main reason that they signed James Daniels, they signed Larry Borum, and they have Liam Eichenberg coming back. And I know fans think he's just a backup. Well, we will see about that. I'm not as certain as some others. And I think they can probably feel they can add an offensive lineman around 2 or 3 to come in and compete for that final guard spot. I don't think they have to address it in round 1. So that's where I am there. But I think cornerback and defensive line is kind of the 2 biggest needs right now. At corner, Will Johnson, he's the only one I see them taking a 13. The only one I see him taking a 13. And if he's there, I think he is the pick. If Will Johnson's on the board to pick 13, which I don't think he will be, but if he falls to 13, Miami's going to turn that card in lightning fast, and they will take Will Johnson to start opposite Jalen Ramsey, Kader Kohu in the nickel, and there's your starting 3 corners, and then you got Cam Smith and Storm Talk and some other guys coming off the bench. That's what I think they'll do. Will Johnson is, out of all those names I mentioned, Will Johnson is the best. He's unbelievable, and I think if he's there at 13, which I don't think he will, but if he falls through the cracks, and there's been a lot of mock drafts where people have him sort of falling to that 13, 14 area, Miami runs it in. Shamar Stewart is the other name I don't think will be there. He was so stinking good at the combine that I think he will go in the top 12. But again, he could fall to 13. There's been many mock drafts. Is if Shador Sanders goes in the top 12, if the running back Ashton Gentry goes in the top 12, there's a chance Shamar Stewart falls to 13. And again, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Chop Robinson in that total physical freak, physical athlete's got everything you want from a football player. But you look at the numbers at Texas A&M, didn't get a lot of sacks. Kind of like Chop Robinson at Penn State, didn't get a lot of sacks. But I'm not worried about production in college. That's a little bit wonky. In college, it's not the same style of game as it is in the NFL. And Shamar Stewart in the NFL is going to be just fine. And if he's there at pick number 13, assuming Will Johnson's not there, I think Miami's going to take him. Shamar Stewart. The other 2 names, which I think are more likely to be the pick at 13, Walter Nolan and Kenneth Grant, defensive tackles that clearly Miami needs right now on there. Again, I know it's March 16th. They have Zach Sealer and nobody else. And I don't think Calais Campbell's going to come back to Miami because I think Miami is in a quiet rebuild, although you don't want to tell the fans that. This is a rebuilding team. So I don't think Campbell's going to come back, or I think he'll sign like the Lions or the Ravens or someone else to have a chance to win a ring. So you look at Zach Sealer and nobody else. I think if you can put Kenneth Grant or Walter Nolan next to him, that goes a long way into improving your defensive line. I think those are the safe bets for 13, really. And there's very similar players, but they're a little bit different in some ways. Walter Nolan, they both have the size, okay? They both have the size to start in the NFL right away. Walter Nolan, though, doesn't have the athleticism as Kenneth Grant. He's more of a hard worker, a little bit more of a grinder, but very, very, very good. Kenneth Grant has the size, and he also has the physical traits and the athleticism as well, which is why I think Grant would get picked before Nolan, especially in Miami. But it's razor close. They are so close to each other. One guy is just more of a grinder, doesn't have quite the athleticism as the under. I will say this: Walter Nolan has a motor that doesn't stop, and that does count for something. Not that Grant's lazy, and not saying that. He just doesn't have the motor of a Walter Nolan, but Grant also has the physical traits and athleticism that Nolan doesn't have, that you kind of can't teach either. So 6-1, half dozen the other. Pick whichever one you like. I think from what I know of Chris Greer, as I always say, transparent as cellophane. You kind of know who he is. He'll fall in love with a Kenneth Grant over a Walter Nolan, but either one would be fine. And then I think if you take one of them in round 1, round 2, you probably go safety. And then round 3, maybe you pick up that offensive guard and maybe even trade up from the end of round 3 with 1 year, 2 picks in round 4 or 2 picks in round 5. Maybe you part with one, move up to the middle of round 3 to make sure you get a guy you like. And then if they don't get Will Johnson in round 1, I don't see them taking a corner in rounds 2 or 3. And then I truly don't know what you do. Who starts opposite Ramsey? That's a problem they're going to have to address. Yes, there will be old veterans out there. Maybe end up having to bring back Kendall Fuller if he's healthy. I don't know. He had the knee. He had a couple concussions. Maybe you call up Xavier Howard and say, I know you didn't play last year, but you still want to play. I mean, there's things you can do, and there'll be some other guys who are still unsigned that you might have to overpay to come here, but maybe just aren't that good. But if they don't get Will Johnson at 13 and they don't add someone at corner prior to the draft, which I'd be kind of shocked if they didn't. I mean, we know how much Chris Greer loves the secondary. I'm a little surprised he didn't sign a corner last week, and it's gotten this far because the guys who are out there, it's scary. You have Stephon Gilmore, who's 34. I mean, he played very well last year, but he is 34. Mike Hilton, who's really just a nickel corner. That's not what they need. They already have one. He's not really going to solve anything for Miami. It'd be nice to have him on the team, but he can't start opposite Ramsey, really. All you're doing there is moving Cater Coe to the bench because he's not going to start as your nickel. Rasul Douglas from the Bills. Okay. There's just not a lot out there at corner. I know this weekend the Titans cut someone and whose name I have no way I'm going to be able to pronounce. I like him the best. Now, I know he only played 8 games last year. He had a groin injury, and he's had some injuries in the past. Again, you're going to have Chris Greer signing someone who's had some injuries in recent years, but that's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, Shidobi Awazi, and I know I'm saying it wrong, but in the 8 games he played last year for the Titans, he actually was sensational. I mean, like really, really, really good. And I might take a flyer there. Again, it's not going to cost you much. And I think, even if he gives you 8 games or 9 games or 10 games, those are going to be 8, 9, or 10 great games. Again, when we're talking second, third wave of free agency, I don't mind them taking a risk there on someone with some injury history. It's like wave 1 when you're signing a safety from the Lions or the offensive line from Pitt, who one of them, he's coming off a major injury, and the other one just never stayed healthy. That's an inherent risk right there. But when you're talking second or third wave, when you're signing guys relatively cheap, I don't mind it, but we'll see what they do at corner. Will Johnson, if he falls, though, it's the pick. Like, there's no thought into this. He's the pick. He is that good. If not, then I think they'll address defensive line and take it from there in rounds 2 and 3 as well. Okay, that's it for today's show. Again, Dolphins Talk Extra, patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. You have a chance to win the Tyreek Hill bobblehead just for signing up. And if you win if you fill out a bracket and win our March Madness contest, you can win the Tua full-size bobblehead. Check it out. Go to the website, DolphinsTalk.com. A bunch of new articles up, podcasts from all last week. If you missed them, you will want to see them, and just a ton of content. Also, be sure to subscribe to our TikTok page and our Instagram page. Again, go there at Dolphins Talk. And if you're on YouTube, take a moment, smash that like button right now, and subscribe to the Dolphins Talk YouTube channel. And I am on all social media platforms at Twitter, Blue Sky, wherever at Dolphins Talk. We're on them all. I got them all covered. So you want to make sure you're following us there. Everyone, have a great Sunday night. Have a great start to your week on Monday. We'll talk to you again after a while. And folks, don't forget, we must put an end to highway profanity.